All right, let's talk real quick about lower time frame mistakes versus higher time frame realities. Um, Earlier last week, the end of the month, around the 29th, I had come in and I had started around this area, drew some lines with the squigglies, and said we were probably coming down around like this, coming back up into these areas. And I mean, I hit it. I mean, anybody who followed the idea loaded up down into here or watch for it to load up and then expected to come up into these range and then followed the plan that I laid out, they should be sitting safely and nicely in profits. However, let's talk about the mistakes that I made, even though I give other people better advice than I give myself. So, what happened here is I drew out these lines. I said that if you guys came through, busted up into these zones, came up into here, and you should look to take profits happily in this, 3,700 to 3,750 range. If you wanted to be real safe, you could start pulling profits right around here. And hopefully some people did. Hopefully some people really just pulled this top and, got the extra and it is what it is. But here's what happened for me. And I constantly say I give other people better advice than I take myself. So, we put the magnet in here, told people when it was over here, they were probably looking at coming up here. We got all that. However, instead of taking my profits and doing as I said, I'd even, said when I drew the line, if we came up in this area, we'd probably then finish down in this area. And that was what was to be watched for. And you could load back up down here at the 3590, 3575, even 3600 range, and hope that that holds again as it has back here in the past for a while, as you see. And that would be the next attempt to go up a little higher before what I sadly do expect will be a bigger sell-off. However, what happened to me is I wrecked myself. I have a bad habit of not taking my own advice. So on the lower time frames, when we came in here and then all of a sudden we just blasted right through my box and you have a complete void here. And then we came way up into here at 3,800, came back down, seemed to respect my lines almost as, support, came up here. We're looking good. And then got a little bit of fear right here, but then boom, right back up, started holding support, came over here, started holding support. So in these areas, I started loading back up, thinking, maybe these other guys are right. We're jumping up, we're going, 3,850, 3,900, 4,000, something like that. Individual stocks load those up because they're following the S&P, and they take bigger drops down. A lot of stocks, if the S&P goes down 2 or 3%, you'll get 6 to 10 on whatever your preferred stock is. So started loading back up, waiting for another bounce up into here. Then we got the hot report this morning on jobs, and boom, just we didn't even hold support in here, nuked right down on path to what I was originally saying. So back to the whole educational point of this, higher time frames versus lower time frames, and zooming out and kind of watching yourself. You'd have zoomed out a little bit to the 4 hour. You might have still possibly made some mistakes thinking this is looking strong. We wicked back up, found support. So even if this pulled back, boom, we're off to the races. Let's load up, let's go. However, had you zoomed out further, had I zoomed back out further and paid attention to my own discipline, followed my own plan, just sold off when I said, would have been ready to load back up. When you look at it on the 1 day, you see that even though this was a big, strong candle up through these lines, you're already wicking back down into here. And then you notice that you had this. This was really some force showing it was trying to push back down into these ranges and not looking as turning this into support really. And if you'd have zoomed out even further than that, and go to the weekly and you see what's actually even still taking place, you really see that there's a good potential here for some more trouble here. Could end up down here next week pretty fast. And I've said before that if we end up down here and then lose that, there's really no support till much further down. I mean, you're talking about maybe grabbing support at 3,500 and hoping that helps. Right here you got the peak back in February of 20 in the 3,400 range. Maybe those hold, but you don't have anything really significant even in here. I mean, the truth is, you go back to before the money printer was turned on and before we started manipulating everything at a mass amount of factors at a time, printed more money in a like an 18-month period than in like 40 years or something like that. So from that point of view, we could very easily find ourselves back down here in the 24 to 2600 ranges, and or maybe even 3000 right here, come back to these peaks and turn this into support, because all of this other stuff, I mean, this is just inflated money printing. This is up only, this is bull only, this is just everything going crazy in the markets. But zoom out and look back. I mean, you've got no real support until these dips that happened in here. And back at these dates, people were wondering if these were going to hold, and you weren't going to end up down here at 1550 basically. So please exercise caution. We've got a lot of stuff coming out next week. We've got so many things going on with macro and global economics, and other currencies and other countries crashing, threats of war, talks of, are we going to see a nuclear war? I mean, just those are some really crazy things. And if you think that these other possibilities couldn't happen, you should really consider the fact that we've got multiple black swan events happening at the same time. And typically it takes one black swan event to crash a market. You've got something like a housing market crash, or talk of a Nord Stream pipeline issue, or talk of a recession or a possible depression after, or a housing market crash. I don't even think we've ever even dealt with a real crash from the auto loan industry, which is also on the table at this point. So we've got more things going on than I could ever imagine at once. So just keep in mind that there's a lot more risk on the table than I think many people believe. A lot of these stocks could literally drop worse than crypto. I mean, they could drop so bad that maybe that's what decouples crypto. So just please be aware of that. Trade wisely, trade safely, watch your levels.